So, you want to pick an altcoin gem, that next low-cap cryptocurrency that could 10, 20 or even 100 times and take your crypto portfolio to the moon. I know many people who banked a stack full of sats from investing in undervalued and hidden altcoins. However, in today's idiosyncratic markets, that has become a lot easier said than done. So then, how do you find those hidden diamonds in the crypto rough? I'm Guy, and in this video, I'll give you exactly what you need to know to do that. I'll take you through some methods that have been used by those very people of which I speak. Oh, and if you watch till the end, I may have one or two altcoin picks that you won't want to miss. Before we get cracking, I have to get a few things out of the way. I am not a financial advisor. I am a person on YouTube who talks about crypto and blockchain for your educational purposes. Always do your own research before investing in cryptocurrency. Oh yes, and for those of you who are new here, welcome one and all. I take a look at the crypto markets regularly, so if that's something you'd like to be a part of, hit on that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. Get plugged into the matrix. Final thing, there are timestamps below in the description which you can hop around with. Also, feel free to adjust the playback speed to your preference. That's it. Enough waffle. Let's get this show started, shall we? Now, let's face it, there are a lot of altcoins out there. Too many to count. Most of them are shitcoins, but those golden nuggets do exist. You need to start the process of finding those golden nuggets with a top-down approach. An extremely simple initial screening mechanism to get a short list of coins that you want to drill deeper into. Perhaps the simplest of all these is market cap. This is because it's easily available for all coins and there are a number of tools that track this info quite effectively. It's also essential for your selection of the coins you want to target, as you can immediately eliminate those that you know are not likely to really 10 times or so in the near future. You need to find those coins that have really small market caps and hence have the most opportunity to really grow like that. For example, if you take a look at all those coins in the top 100 of market cap over at CMC, it's pretty unlikely that these will increase as much as a coin that is sitting at around 300 in market cap. Why is this? Well, it's just simple maths. You're already starting at such a high base. It's a lot harder to take a project with a market cap of 50 million to 500 million than it is to take another coin with a market cap of 2 million to 20 million. So we'll then have to set out an acceptable range that we think our altcoin gem could be in and then eliminate all those that are not candidates. There are a number of market cap tracking tools out there, including CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko, CoinCodex, etc. For this screening process, I usually use CoinMarketCap. This is just because they have a pretty neat filter over here where you can select the market cap range. You can also drill down further with other metrics, something which we'll be doing in a bit. Generally, I like to look at those that are below $10 million in market cap. This should give the coin enough headroom to really multiply in price should its real value be realized in the market. I usually have a lower bound of about $5 million market cap as well. It's not a hard stop, as there may be a few interesting projects below this cutoff. However, the bulk of coins below this market cap are, sorry to be blunt, shitcoins. They have very little adoption and awareness, and even if they have great tech, they're being crowded out. So now I have my list of coins that I can start focusing in on. This then calls for another filter to further clear the field. The next metric that I'll look at is the volume. This is an important metric as it shows just how active the trading of the coin is. It can also be a great way for you to spot coins that have artificial or abnormal value, i.e. those that may have some wash trading going on. So for me, I like to look at those coins that take about 2 to 6 days to turn over their market cap. Put another way, the 24-hour volume should be between 10 to 50% of the market cap. Now, you can't filter a ratio of 2 metrics on CMC, but you can easily just copy the data over to a spreadsheet and run your own custom filter over it. I've developed this simple Google Sheet where I will manually copy the data into. There are ways to develop dynamic screening tools on CMC that use the API, but these don't work too well for the lower market cap altcoins. Anyways, I have this column over here, and that has the ratio of the coin's volume to its market cap. I'll also run an Excel filter over this so that we're only looking at those coins that we want, those with a ratio of between 10 to 50%. After applying this filter, I have the following list of 50 odd coins which I will further have to investigate. I need to make absolutely sure that the volume is completely legitimate and not compromised of any wash trading. We've already screened out the most of the coins that have wash trading by zoning in on the volume. However, to make doubly sure, we also have to look at their exchange listings. Indeed, seeing where a coin is listed is another important metric, as you are, after all, going to be buying it there. You want to know that you can easily get your hands on it and liquidate when you see fit. If the coin only trades on one exchange with a dodgy track record, then you should avoid it. Moreover, if a coin is to really rally in price, it has to be on an exchange that has a large user base. An exchange where more people get exposed to it, are aware of it, and can consequently buy it. For browsing through the best exchanges, I prefer to use CoinGecko, as I find their rankings to be a bit more independent. So let me take one of the coins that we currently have in our refined list and take a look at the exchanges where it's listed. How about Raiden over here? Let's hop on over to CoinGecko quickly. Here, when you search for the coins, you can select Markets. This will show you a list of all the exchanges where the coin is trading. You can see that CoinGecko assigns a trust score to these exchanges. As you can see, the most volume of Raiden is currently taking place on an exchange called Buybox, then X-Rates. However, neither of these exchanges would be my top pick, and as you can see, CoinGecko does not think that much about them either. However, you can also just take a look at that market depth. Market depth is another way to think about liquidity. Those coins that have deeper order books have more liquidity and hence are easier to trade with larger block orders. So yeah, for these two exchanges, it's a no for me. However, it's good to see that it is listed on Binance. Now, most can agree that Binance is a pretty reputable exchange with deep liquidity and reasonable volume. It also has the highest web traffic among the exchanges and the most users, so this is a great sign for the future potential trading of the token. Okay, so those are most of the market metrics that I use to zone in on the coins that are worth doing a bit of deeper digging. Once you have this list, we can take a look at some important network metrics. On-chain metrics are important. They show whether a cryptocurrency is being used, whether it's active and not just a nice concept. There are a number of metrics that you can look at here, from address activity to network participation on staking coins to total transactions, etc. In fact, there are so many metrics to look at that it could be hard to have positive signs from all of them. One cannot really use the same network valuation metrics for altcoins like this than they do for large cap altcoins. Now, there are a number of tools that you can use to see these stats, but one of the best out there has to be intotheblock.com. They have a plethora of data, and it's not just resigned to network metrics. They offer a 7-day free demo, but the paid packages are not that bad at all for what you get. Anyways, the first metric you should be looking at is the percentage of active addresses compared to total addresses. This can give you an idea of how many people are really using the network compared to how many are just sitting with their tokens in the wallets. Activity in this case is, of course, transactions to and from said address. As you can no doubt tell, those with a very low ratio are less desirable. Of course, you could have a situation where both addresses and transactions are increasing at the same rate, in which case the ratio will be constant. So you can also take a look at both of these ratios independently. If both are growing, that is a good sign. Another pretty neat stat that Into the Blocks has is the time between transactions. This is another stat that you can use to give you an idea of just how active this blockchain is. Moving away from on-chain stats, you will also want to possibly examine the distribution of tokens on the network. Centralization is generally not something that you want in a project, as it means that whales can control the market. Okay, so we've now been through some of the most important on-chain metrics that help you determine how active the network is. But what about development activity? This is why I love to dive into the GitHub repos of a project. It's perhaps one of the most transparent ways for me to ascertain development activity. One of the only ways that an altcoin can separate itself from the crowd is with impressive tech, and this needs to be worked on constantly. It's not really about being able to read the code that underpins the protocol. You just want to see a regular stream of commits in the core repositories. You want to make sure that there is active discussion in these repositories. If they link to their GitHub, then you can go over to the Insights section over here and you'll see the commits, code frequency, and contributors. As an example, we have the Raiden network stats over here. As you can see, it appears to be quite active with a regular stream of commits and additions or deletions. You can then head on over to the Issues tab over here and see the discussion around code additions. Back to our example over with Raiden, you can see that there is quite a lot going on over here as well. Now, I should of course caveat that sometimes you don't get the full picture of development on the public code repositories. Not all commits are created equal, and often developers will code in private repositories before they push it live. If you think this could be the case, then you could of course head on over to their development docs or blog to see what they say about it. Okay, so we've now been through the screening process without even looking at any of the projects. And I know that many of you are thinking that I'm excluding a number of projects. But this is important. It's important to have a top-down screening process in order to zone in on those projects that could be interesting. The next stages of the analysis actually involve doing due diligence on the projects themselves, and that takes a lot more time. And I think something that we can all agree on is that time is money. So then, now that we have our list of projects that we want to research, we can finally look into some other specific information. If you know many investors in the venture capital realm, you'll hear that on many occasions they mostly back the team. If the startup has a great team, then that's already a major hurdle cleared for the startup business plan itself. As such, you should also place a large emphasis on this when initially doing your research. A team comprised of individuals who have a background in the space is really important. You should also make 100% certain that all of their information is publicly available and verifiable. I remember back in the 2017 ICO craze when fake team credentials were used to promote a project. Case in point, here is a team of an ICO that was conducted back in 2017. Notice anything weird there? Yes, that Kevin bloke looks a hell of a familiar. I didn't know that Ryan Gosling moonlighted as a graphic designer. Anyways, I don't think you'll have such an egregious fraud with projects we're looking at, but it does show how important it is to verify their credentials. Check out their LinkedIn, GitHub, Twitter, and other socials. When doing so, it's also important to make sure that their skills and background are aligned. I generally prefer it when a project has a developer-heavy team. This is, after all about cutting-edge technology, so this should be a preference. It does also help to have people on board who have a business or marketing background, as they can help forge partnerships which could increase adoption and awareness. However, I'm usually a bit turned off when most of the team members are ex-marketers and self-aggrandizing shills. We have enough of that in crypto. Oh, and one more thing. There are still a few projects, including a pretty well-known one, that have pseudonymous developers. Yes, Satoshi did create the most valuable blockchain in the world, but in today's day and age, it helps to know who is behind a project. There is a sea of ICOs that managed to exit scam because no one knew who the hell they were. So Satoshi Nakamoto is the exception, not the norm. Okay, once you've done your research and are pretty happy with the team behind the project, it's time to get into the weeds, and by that I mean the white paper. Now, I know how it is. Many people try to avoid reading over the white paper, but this is a shame. There is so much important information that you can glean from doing so. Moreover, a really crappy or fluffy white paper could be another sign that you should avoid it. You should also read it with a pinch of salt, as it may not be fully updated. However, it's an important first step in order to get a vague understanding of what the project is about. You don't have to study it inside and out as though you're writing a thesis on it. You just have to focus on some of the most important points and whether they make sense. Some of these include consensus method, technology stack, interoperability, scalability, use cases, roadmap. Let's take a look at each of those individually, shall we? The consensus method is important as this helps us determine not only how secure the blockchain is, but also whether it's scalable. There are a plethora of consensus protocols out there with their own pros and cons. Some are pretty unique and ingenious, others are more plain vanilla. I'm not going to go over it here as it's a topic on its own entirely, but do know that it's an important factor you should consider. The technology stack is a pretty broad term, but it means the general structure of the network. How broad is it? Are there numerous different layers where additional technology and functionality can be built? How does this technology stack make the project unique amongst all of its peers? Interoperability means a protocol can interact with other blockchains and networks. This could help the network access liquidity and applications from other ecosystems. While a project may not be completely interoperable to start, it's great to see a plan to reach that holy grail of connectedness. Scalability is one that I'm sure you are pretty familiar with. It is, after all, bandied about quite frequently. Quite simply, if a network cannot scale, then it will eventually suffer bottlenecks. This is something that we see with some of the most popular blockchains today. If a project has a consensus method that is scalable, then that is a plus. But will they also develop other scaling solutions, perhaps off-chain, etc.? Use cases is pretty self-explanatory. The only way that you're really going to get adoption for a network and a currency is whether there are defined and reasonable use cases. You also have to ask yourself whether these use cases make sense or are just a bunch of mumbo-jumbo. For example, who needs a cryptocurrency for dentists? And yes, there is a coin that exists like this. Finally, we have that roadmap. This may not always be up to date in the white paper, so I do encourage you to take a look on their website if they have it. But basically, a roadmap is an essential part of a growing project. It's one thing to have a theoretical construct of what you want your network to look like, but it's another thing entirely to execute on it. Are there defined goals and timelines in the roadmap? Is it detailed enough to be able to measure their performance in meeting these goals and timelines? Based on previous milestones, have they met them or constantly pushed it back with delay after delay? And while we're on the point of delays, I understand that it's sometimes hard to keep to a defined timeline when developing such nascent tech. But there has to come a point where a project has to be adequately penalized for missing these guidelines. There are some projects today that, despite having completed ICOs back in 2017, have still not released a mainnet. Anyways, as mentioned, a lot of this stuff may not be available in the white paper and it may be dated. That is why you should then take a look at what has been going on with the project since it's been released. Apart from the activity in the GitHub, you can also take a look at their blogs, social media, and other communication channels to see where the project is going. Now, something else that can really help increase the awareness and adoption of a cryptocurrency is, of course, the community. How big is it and how active are the members? There are a number of simple tools that you can use to ascertain the size of the following. If you head on over to CoinGecko, you can get a sense of just how many followers there are and how active these users are. You can also head on over back to this site that I mentioned and dive deeper into their social stats. There is an entire section for that there. For example, here is the Raiden Network Token's Twitter sentiment that has had some positive mentions over the past few days. Of course, for smaller communities and projects like this, the data can be sparse. That's why I like to dive a little deeper in order to determine exactly what type of community this is. The caliber and dedication of a project's community speaks volumes about the broader potential. When I jump into the Telegram groups or read through the forums, I can easily get a sense of what type of community we're dealing with. Is there a lot of thoughtful discussion going on? Are users genuinely interested in the technology and adoption of the network? Are they helpful and welcoming to new members? And do they help answer some of their questions? These are all strong community signals in my opinion. If, however, I see a flood of memes and personal attacks, it raises a few red flags. People who throw around the word FUD for a lack of a solid argument just grind my gears and turn me off of a project. Now, why is this important? Well, a community that is passionate about the project has staying power. They're interested in seeing the cryptocurrency adopted and know the exact reasons as to why it will be. They're also willing to spend the time to make sure that others are aware of the project. Free marketing, if you ask me. That's it, guys. My main criteria I use when screening for altcoins. Now, there are other factors that I take into account, but this video is getting long. Perhaps it calls for a follow-up down the line. But I do hope that you're able to use some of these methods to screen for your own altcoins. Remember, time is money, and if you're able to zone in on those projects with the most promise really quickly, you're already on the right track. Okay, so many of you are no doubt wondering what my altcoin tips are. Well, it was no coincidence that the Raiden Network token was featured in the video when screening. I think that this is an interesting project that not only meets all of my criteria, but is also one of the Ethereum sidechain scaling solutions with the most promise. There has also been quite a bit of activity on the project recently. At the end of May, Raiden released their Aldebaran mainnet live on the Ethereum mainnet. It's a beta release, but it's the first full suite version of Raiden. I've linked to the docs below if you want to read them. Now, I should of course caveat that I don't personally hold any RDN. However, it is a project that I have my eyes on, and I will keep you guys updated should I decide to scoop some up. And that's it, my fellow fans. I know it's been a long one, so thank you for sticking in there. I do want some of your valuable feedback though. What do you guys think of my criteria? Are there any tools that you use to screen that I haven't mentioned? I'd love to know in the comments. Finally, if you like this content, then please do drop me that like. If you love this content, then show the love by subscribing. Much more content is just around the corner. Thanks for making it to the end of that video. As one of my loyal viewers, I have something very important to share with you. Have you heard of my weekly newsletter? It's basically a compilation of all the interesting content that may have flown under your radar. News, reviews, analysis, and hot market tips. Want to be a part? Well, don't delay. Just scoot on over to the description where you'll find a link to my sign-up form. There you can enter your email address. Hit submit and hey presto, you are a Coin Bureau insider. My next newsletter is being cooked up as we speak, one you won't want to miss. See you next time, chaps.